Recording in three, two, and one.
You wanted books? We brought the books.
Wait. Welcome to episode 231 of Nerdery and Murdery.
Big 231. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with the Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the up, down, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. Um, Thank you for covering Rebels a few weeks ago.
Yes.
I'm now in I'm getting towards the end of season two.
Oh yeah. It really
Um,
starts getting good
it's a
season
lot
two.
of fun. It's really a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. The animation is phenomenal, phenomenal. Can't wait to watch more. I sometimes, especially if Chelsea's really tired and she goes to bed, she's like, "You okay if I go to bed and leaving you alone?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch Rebels. I'm good." Um, she's been working hard, man. So for her birthday, she wanted this, and she got a whole lot of tools and things like that to make sourdough. And
Okay.
dude, she's making sourdough everything. She has made sourdough pizza crust. She has made sourdough cake using what they call the discard, which sounds really weird, but
Yeah.
it's just what you use. She makes bread, and I mean, God, the smells in our house sometimes just get unbearable because it's just like, oh, I want all that bread.
So hungry.
Um, we're gonna make sourdough grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner tonight. I'm stoked. I'm
Mmm.
stoked. I think we're using Swiss and cheddar and some other cheese. Just gonna make some phenomenal grilled cheese sandwiches. That
Sourdough
sounds so good to
grilled
me.
cheese sandwiches.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that does sound pretty good.
The sourdough pizza dough she does is amazing. It's so good. I mean, it'll ruin you from to-go pizza.
Yeah.
It'll ruin you. It's so good. And she makes her own homemade sauce for it and everything. It's just great. So yeah, so there's nights where because it's work. It takes days to make
Yeah.
that bread because you have to quote unquote feed it.
Hmm.
Um, and it grows and things like that. And then she just gets in. She spent all day yesterday just making different stuff. But yeah, I mean it's awesome. So there's nights she's just worn out, and yeah, I'll get on some Rebel. Um, did you see that there is a new release of Age of Empires?
Yes. Yes. I
You'd
know
be
they
very
released it on
interested in
Steam a
that.
few years ago where they redid it, and I think they're doing it again.
Yeah, I think there's a whole new version out with different civilizations in it. Age of Empires was a really cool game. It's a world builder, and it's a world builder and it's a time killer. You can
Yes,
spend
it is.
hours and hours and
We
hours with Age.
I believe it made it into the Time Suck games.
I'm fairly positive I remember it did. You know,
If it didn't, it was an alternate pick.
so you should definitely check that out. But I was really excited because some information is starting to drop about Fallout 5, which I'm
Hmm.
very excited about. Rumor is that it's going to take place in New Orleans
Hmm.
this time. So after, I've talked about it before. I did not like Fallout 76, because that was kind of an
Hmm.
MMORPG, and I didn't like it. I like my Fallout to be very story driven and streamlined in that I know it's going to send me here and I'm going to complete this mission. There might be side missions along the way. Um, I'm just not a big fan of other RPGers being out there in the world that can also kill me. There's enough to kill me out there with the creatures, the zombies and the death claws and all that stuff. So I'm really looking forward to Fallout 5. I think they have said it's going to come out after the second season of the TV show, which the trailer is out there for that, and it looks amazing. Can't wait for that, but I can't wait for Fallout 5. I'm just glad that we're starting to get more information on that. So those were the big things on my head today. Our last episode, I think we went like 25 minutes with the what's in our head for the day.
What's in our head for the day? Yeah. There was a bit of back and forth.
Yeah. So got anything for us? You ready to step into the nerdery side of the house?
kind of want to step into the nerdery side of the house.
Go for it.
Excellent. Today we're going to talk about four little known new wave sci-fi novels and novellas.
All
I don't
right.
think any of these books is more than half-inch thick, so
Cool.
these are quick reads. The ones we're going to talk about today are Forever War by Joe Haldeman, Empire of the Atom by A.E. Van Vogt, Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, and A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter Miller Jr. We'll start with The Forever War. The Forever War is a military science fiction novel by American author Joe Haldeman, telling the contemplative story about human soldiers fighting an interstellar war against an alien civilization known as the Taurans. It did win the Nebula Award for Best Novel in 1975 and the Hugo and Locus Awards in 1976. Forever Free, released in 1999, and Forever Peace in 1997 are respectively direct and thematic sequel novels. The novella A Separate War in 1999 is another sequel of sorts occurring simultaneously with the final portion of the Forever War. Informally, the novels comprise the Forever War series. The novel also inspired a comic book and a board game. The Forever War is the first title in the Sci-Fi Masterwork series. Um, just a little background. I was looking for some books to read about 25 years ago, 25 years ago, and I pulled up the list of 100 best sci-fi novels because I was like, I just want to read some sci-fi. I don't even really want fantasy. I just want sci-fi. And I went on this trek. Um, and this is one of the books I picked up, and I was like, oh, this is a little novella. This should be fine. This is not, this is not God Emperor Dune. um, I'll give you some of the background. William Mandela is a physics student conscripted for an elite task force in the United Nations exploratory force being assembled for a war against the Taurans, an alien species discovered when they apparently attacked human colonist ships. The UNEF ground troops are sent out for reconnaissance and revenge. The elite recruits have IQs of 150 and above, are highly educated, healthy, and fit. Training is grueling, first on Earth and later on a planet called Charon beyond Pluto, which was actually written before the discovery of the actual planetoid Charon. And I want to say we named Charon because of this novel, because, all all astrophysicists are basically science fiction nerds. Well, not all, but most.
Sure.
Um,
Well, then
several of the
makes sense.
several of the recruits die during training due to the extreme environments and the use of live weapons. The new soldiers complete training and immediately depart for action via interconnected collapsars that allow ships to cover thousands of light years in a split second. However, crucially, traveling to and from through a collapsar at near light speeds has enormous relativistic time effects. On their first encounter with the Taurans on a planet orbiting Epsilon Aurigae, their post-hypnotic training is triggered, which causes them to massacre the Taurans despite their lack of resistance. The first expedition, beginning in 1997, lasts only 2 years from the soldiers' point of view, but due to time dilation, they return to Earth in 2024. During the expedition's second battle, the soldiers experience future shock firsthand as the Taurans have much more advanced weaponry. Mandela, with fellow soldiers lover Margay Potter, returns to civilian life only to find humanity drastically changed. He and the other discharged soldiers have difficulty fitting into a society that is altered almost beyond their comprehension. The veterans learn that to curb overpopulation, which led to class wars around the world caused by inequitable rationing, um, several things have become officially encouraged, i.e., different styles of living, homosexuality, non-binary, non-sexuality. It's actually heavily encouraged now. The world has become a very dangerous place due to mass unemployment and the easy availability of weapons. So there's a lot of this stuff going around. Mandela survives 4 years of military service, but again, there's a lot of time dilation going on. So at the very end of the war, it's been like 300-400 years. He only served 4 years. And they find out uh, the futile there was a it was a futile, meaningless war which lasted more than 1,000 years ends because they discovered that the Taurans weren't actually attacking those people. They were trying to communicate with them. They just fucked up. It was a miscommunication, but they had a war with them for that lasted 1,000 years from the Earthers' perspective and from the Taurans' perspective. Um, and the planet changed. It does have a bit of a happy ending, or for Margay, and I don't want to give too much of it away because you guys really want to read this. William Mandela. Um, this book gripped me. I did read Forever Peace shortly after. I read Forever War. Forever Peace, in my opinion, is not as good. It's not. It's not like Ender's Game and then the next Ender's Game novel. I can't remember the name. Xenocide, something like that.
Xenophobe.
Xenophobe.
You've got
Um,
Ender's Game, Xenophobe, and
Speaker of the Dead.
Speaker of the Dead, or is it?
Speaker
Do
of
I
the
have
Dead.
that reversed? We may have that reversed.
Yeah. Anyway, Ender's Game was a great novel. I thought uh, Xenophobe was not good. I'll
Well,
be honest.
most people will tell you that you've got Ender's Game, and then Speaker for the Dead and Xenophobe are not as good, and they're good, but
Yeah.
they're a lot slower burn
Hmm.
on both of those. Really, if you go from Ender's Game to the fourth one, which is
The Bean story, right?
not no not Bean, no, the Bean stories are great. I mean, definitely read the Bean stories because you start with Ender's Shadow, which is the story of Ender's Game as told from Bean's point of view, which is phenomenal. And then that branches off into its own series with Bean, which is beyond phenomenal. The fourth book, let me look it up real quick. Um, Ender's Game fourth book. Let's do that.
Shadows of the
Uh,
Hegemony, something like that.
is it Children of the Mind? Really? Is that it? No, Ender in Exile. Um, wow, I don't think I've even read Children of the Mind. Interesting. Uh, Ender in Exile is the fourth one, and it's actually pretty good. I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, what
Um, but
in this case, this it's not that the second book was bad. I don't think the
no,
second book was bad at all.
no.
Just like in Ender's Game, but it does not compare to Forever War. You know what I
Right,
mean?
all right. I'm with you. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. I loved this book. I was able to connect with some of the aliens as well as some of the heroes, quote unquote. Very militaristic, but militaristic from the point of view of a thinker, if that makes sense. And again, there's a reason why it's listed as part of the masterwork. And it took him 24 years to write the sequel, or 23 years to write the sequel to it. So, some of that stuff may not have been as fresh in his head. But it deals with relativistic time and how that affects people, and it also explores how society is being affected on Earth and amongst the Taurans. They're trying to be colonists. A lot of the way, like, oh, what was the book where the you got me to read it? Where the people, they're old people,
Oh, Old Man's War.
old man's
John
Scalzi.
Scalzi.
Yeah,
Scalzi.
John
Yeah.
Scalzi. Yeah, Old Man's War.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell that John Scalzi drew some of his ideas from the Forever War because the Forever War was published in 1975.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's a lot of that, as well as Ender's Game and things like that. But again, in a more tight and compact story, it's basically told from the point of view of one soldier, in much of the same way that those two books were. we're told from the point of view of. There's a reason why it's in the list of top 100s, and it's a sci-fi masterwork. I cannot recommend it enough. Have you ever read the Forever War?
I believe I have because everything you're saying about it sounds very familiar. So I'm almost positive I've read the
Yeah,
Forever War
yeah,
somewhere, somewhere.
yeah. And it has to do with stasis fields and the difference in society between humans and Taurans, and humans from 1997 and humans from 1197.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Or 2997. Sorry, it's because this is 1,000 years. Again, I just and at the end of the book, you're like, yeah, why are we even fighting a war? This is just dumb. There's plenty of space. We can share it. Um, and some of the ideas that they have and the thoughts are basically just because the leaders can't think outside the idea of we are alone in the universe. You know what I mean? Um, so that th- there's a dissonance between those ideas because I mean, once you get out into space and start meeting people, our society's gonna have to change. We're gonna have to become way less warlike because the problem with societies out in space is some of them are going to be a hell of a lot older than us with a lot better technology. So we don't want to go out, rattling our sabers everywhere. And it's kind of that idea. The next book I wanted to talk about was Empire of the Atom. It's a science fiction novel by Canadian American writer A.E. Van Vogt, and it was first published in 1957 by Shasta Publishers in an edition of 2,000 copies. The novel is a fix-up of the first five of Van Vogt's God stories, which originally appeared in the magazine Astounding. Um, the remaining God stories are combined in the sequel, The Wizards of Lynn. A genealogical chart of the ruling family of the Empire of Lynn is included. Um, Van Vogt based Empire of the Atom largely on the plot of I, Claudius by Robert Graves,
Hmm.
uh, putting it into a science fiction setting. The work was originally presented as five novelettes published in Astounding Science Fiction between May of 46 and December of 47. A Son is Born, Child of the Gods, Hand of the Gods, Home of the Gods, and The Barbarian. Um, Critics and writers James Blish and David Knight observed the similarity of Robert Graves' I, Claudius novels. Knight said the plot was lifted almost bodily from that of I, Claudius, and Brian Stableford, just a critic, wrote the novel seems to be a transfiguration of Graves' novel. Um, Let me explain what it's about. Sometime a little over 10,000 years from now, a noble woman gives birth to a deformed child, a consequence of having been accidentally exposed to radiation from one of the temples of the atom gods. The baby is kept alive because one of the atom priests wants to conduct an experiment to see what will happen if the boy, unlike other mutant children, is given the full education of an atom priest. In his teens, the mutant boy, Klain, helps his father to win a war with Mars. uh, Mars is a has been terraformed, and it's a human colony on Mars. It's not Martians. And I think the same with Venus. He also continues his studies with while his grandfather, who is Lord Leader and his tutor, protects him from the Machiavellian intrigues swirling around him, especially those of his grandmother Lydia. Reaching his majority, Klain turns his estate into a laboratory where he can test new inventions and machines that he has retrieved from the ruins of ancient cities and reactivated. When his grandfather died, Klain becomes a target for assassination, but shortly thereafter, Lady Lydia receives a vase containing the assassin's ashes. Even a direct frontal assault by a military fails, Klain, and Lady Lydia is compelled to cease her attacks on him. A war between the Linean Empire and rebels on Venus provided the opportunity for Klain to take an expedition to explore the ruins of an ancient city there. When the Venusians capture the Lord Advisor and thousands of his troops and prepare to hang them, Klain appears to their camps and displays the awesome power of the atom gods, With the war won, Klain returns to Earth with his findings. So, again, I don't want to give too much away about that. Basically, what happened is humans in this intervening 10,000 years from, you know, now to then, humans were able to populate the solar system, terraform Venus and Mars, and some of the outer planetoids and things like that. We had a nuclear war here. Now, some of those spaceships, because there were trading ships going on, still exist. However, um, people were anti-technological because it was technology that destroyed them. So the trading ships are still in use, but they're basically just cargo haulers. What they do is they will take an army and load it up onto the ships. And when I say army, I mean like horse cavalry, um, footmen. They don't really use guns. It is all feudal warfare, basically, because the priesthood holds a very strong sway on the society in the same way it did in the Middle Ages in Europe. Um, the priesthood prays to the gods of the atom. Um, the culture makes the gods of uranium, plutonium, radium, and X, and has temple scientists to guard them. Klain is a member of the ruling family, and the temple priests look at the mutant as maybe a gift from one of the atom gods. Um, and they want to develop him into a supernormal. He is responsible for the Martian and Venusian victories, salvage the Empire after barbarian invasion, is ready to protect the systems against a possible attack from outer space, a fantasy of future frontiers. Now, what's amazing about this book is Klain was smart enough to realize that the atom priests and all of the stuff they taught were basically bullshit. He figured out the religion itself is bullshit. It's protectionists to keep society from inventing nuclear bombs again, basically. Um, so he's and his mutation, and it's a very minor. He's very when he takes off his robe and he's standing in front of you, you can tell there's a little bit of mutation. Mostly what it is he has very high processing power in his brain. That's where most of the mutation actually affects him, but people don't realize that because you can't see it. Um, he figured out that society had advanced really, really far, a lot farther than they're being allowed to advance over the intervening thousands of years. That society collapsed, and there are several places, like his estate. There is this fence around it, right? An entire army comes up to him and they hit this fence. What this fence is it's basically piped radium inside the fence, right? So when they hit it, they just basically immolate. Um, and so everybody kind of reveres him as almost a god king. But that's not what he's trying to do. What he's trying to do is fix society, but he has to deal with all this Machiavellian intrigue. Because again, it's like the Middle Ages, but they still have spaceships, even though there are horses on them. Fascinating treatment. And again, you've got all the political intrigue from I Claudius with these the society that at one point was superluminal, but is no longer. I have seen this idea explored several other times um, in other novels, which I loved, but not nearly as much as I did in this one. And it's an adventure novel too. And again, most of these are novellas. None of these are bigger than half an inch across. Um, this one was hard to find for a long time, but you can pick it up at your local uh, half price books and things like that, or have I want to say half price books specifically. but a used bookstore. That's what I'm going for.
Sure, like the Opera House up in Denton.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's that's a beautiful used bookstore.
Oh my God.
Used bookstores are so cool.
Uh-huh.
And we talked about the Opera House before because I mean the Opera House is massive.
Oh
Um,
my God, yeah.
half price books where you can get good stuff in half price books, and it's a fun store to be in if you're a reader,
Hmm.
or or a gamer looking for games or music or blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But it's very corporate.
Hmm.
Um, your standalone used bookstore like the Opera House in Denton, kind of magical. Y-
Yes, yes. It's the smell. It smells magical when you walk into it.
You know what? And that's so funny you mentioned that. Here we go. Shameless plug for my book, Prime Numbers. It's out now. When I got my author copy of the book, my friend Billy down here, he goes, "Did you smell it? Did you smell it? Does it
Hmm.
smell?" And I was like, "There's no smell. It just doesn't smell like anything." Um, so it's funny that you mentioned that the smell of books. It's the smell of old book.
Yeah. You need to get some age on that. Well,
Yeah.
no, you got
No,
it in a
not
sealed
anymore. I don't.
case now.
I do have it in a sealed case now. I do not want that thing to age. But it's magical. It's
It
magical to
is.
go into. I love those little mom and pop used bookstores. I love them. I
Hmm.
absolutely love them, and I will shop at one of those before I shop at a half price books any day of the week because just the magical feeling of it
They're
is,
amazing.
yeah, great.
They're, yeah, yeah. Your local used bookstore, you can pick up a lot of the stuff, and usually they're much cheaper than the cover prices. When they sold
Oh
them in the
yeah.
60s.
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of the
I think I
paperbacks
picked
that
this one up for
were,
like 75 cents.
yeah, I was going to say, you get a lot of paperbacks, which, let's go back into the 80s and even I think some into the 90s. Paperbacks were 6.99,
Hmm.
7, 8.99. Um, you can get a lot of those for like 50 cents, a dollar,
Two
things like
buck.
that. Yeah, yeah.
It's good stuff. And they have that smell.
Hmm.
They've been
Hmm.
sitting on somebody's shelf forever, and they've been sitting in the shelf at the half price or used bookstore for a while. Yeah,
Well,
this is.
and some of this stuff too. Um, whenever we moved, not here, but when we moved from our house in Argyle to our house in Denton, uh, Chelsea and I went through all of our books.
Mhm.
And with the exception of a few that had some very sentimental value to them, if we could get them as an ebook, we went ahead and gave them over to bookstores.
Mhm.
A matter of fact, took them to Opera House.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the one thing I would say on this. Some of these you can get an e-reader, um, but some of them you can't. And so that's when you got to go to these half-price
Yeah.
bookstores and find that kind of stuff.
And I looked up all of these books are currently in print, so
Hmm.
somewhere. But again, you can find several. This was uh, A.E. Van Vogt was trying to tell the story of political intrigue set after an apocalypse, but after an apocalypse, set 10,000 years after an apocalypse, where society's basically reformed, and it follows some of the same patterns. But you do have this one character who's like us, and sees, oh my God, why did we do this? What what's going on here? Hey, it's amazing. Check it out. I never, because I couldn't find a copy, I never went ahead and read the next book, The Wizard of Lynn, and maybe I should. I should go see if I can't find a copy of it. Because again, it's also a novella, but it basically continues the story. But I like the way they wrapped Empire of the Atom up. And again, this was recommended in that 100, I think it was 100 short novels or novellas list that I got like 25 years, which I can't even find anymore. I don't know what I did with it. At one point, I had it written down so I could go to the bookstore with it. This is a long time ago. Um, and get crossing off the ones I'd already grabbed and read.
Hmm.
The next book in our list is Cat's Cradle. It's a satirical postmodern novel with science fiction elements by American writer Kurt Vonnegut. Vonnegut's fourth novel, it was first published on March 18th, 1963, exploring and satirizing issues of science, technology, the purpose of religion, and the arms race, often through the use of morbid humor. The first person everyman narrator opens the novel with Call me Jonah. My parents did, or nearly did. They call me John, though neither name appears again throughout the novel. The narrator is a professional writer who frames the plot as a flashback set in the mid 20th century when he was planning to write a book called The Day the World Ended. He described his concept of the book as an account of what people were doing on the day the atomic bombing of Hiroshima throughout. He also intersperses meaningful as well as sarcastic passages and sentiments from an odd religious scripture known as the Book of Bokanon. Most of the events of the novel occur before the narrator was converted to his current religion, Bokanonism. So, Bokanonism, the religion of Bokanon, uh, is in a book with no pages. I have seen a mock-up copy of the Book of Bokanon. What it is it's basically a book cover, and when you open it, uh, the the tenets of Bokanonism are on both sides of the book, but there are no pages in there. It's really small, and you have to get a magnifying glass to read it. It's ridiculous. But while researching for his upcoming book, the narrator writes a letter to Newt Honecker, the youngest son of the late Felix Honecker, co-creator of the atomic bomb and Nobel laureate physicist, asking Newt to describe what he remembers about the day when the first bomb was dropped. Newt recounts that his father was doing nothing more than playing the string game Cat's Cradle. About a year later, the narrator travels to a fictional Ilium, New York, to interview Felix Honecker's co-workers and other acquaintances. There he learns of a substance called Ice 9, conceptualized for military use by Honecker and currently in possession of his three adult children. Ice 9 is an alternate structure of water that is solid at room temperature and acts as a seed crystal upon contact with ordinary liquid water, causing the liquid water to instantly freeze and transform into more Ice 9. Eventually, a magazine assignment takes an area to the fictional Caribbean island of San Lorenzo, one of the poorest countries on Earth. On the plane ride, the narrator is surprised to meet Newt and Angela, Felix's only daughter. He also meets the newly appointed U.S. ambassador to San Lorenzo, who provides a comprehensive guidebook of San Lorenzo's unusual culture and history. The guidebook describes his locally influenced semi-parody religious movement called Bokanonism, which combines irreverent, nihilistic, and cynical observations about the life and God's will, an emphasis on coincidences and serendipity. The both thoughtful and humorous sayings and rituals into a holy text called the Book of Bokanon. Bokanon, the religious founder, was a former leader of the island who created Bokanonism as part of a utopian project to give people purpose and a community in the face of the island's unsolved poverty and squalor. Um, I don't want to give any more of the book away, so I'm going to go into some of the his ideas for writing it.
Well, let me real quick. Let me kind of compare this because it's funny when I saw Cat Cradle in the list. Um, I've read Cat's Cradle and it's a great book. Vonnegut is very humorous.
Yes,
Sometimes a little dry humor, but he is very humorous.
humorous,
But
dark but humorous.
oh, very dark. But what it reminds me of when I think about Cat's Cradle, I actually think about this book in the same breath, and it's Job: A Comedy of Justice by Heinlein.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's funny if I think you should read Cat's Cradle and follow it up with Job's A Comedy of Justice
Oh yeah.
because when you read them together, they're very complementary forms of but they form very complementary halves of the same question.
Yeah.
If life is absurd, should we laugh because nobody's in charge? That's Cradle.
Hmm.
Or because the people in charge are just as ridiculous as we are. Job's A Comedy of Justice. They're two halves of the same question, and I think
Oh
they're
my
very
God.
complementary
That's
books.
brilliant. That's really funny.
So add those as companion
Yeah,
novels.
yeah. Read.
Read Cat's Cradle, follow it with Job: A Comedy of Justice.
Yes, Job: A Comedy of Justice is a much bigger than Cat's Cradle. Again, Cat's Cradle is like a novella.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's brilliant. What a great idea.
Because, but that's exactly what I said. I couldn't help think about when you brought up the Cat's Cradle, I
Mhm.
immediately went, man, this really compares to Job: A Comedy of Justice.
Oh my God, yeah, you
The-
just read them back to back. But you're right. Cat's Cradle first,
Yep,
then Job: A Comedy of Justice.
yep, yep.
But yeah, that's really fucking. uh, okay, so sorry.
Sorry about that.
No. That's a great idea. Thanks. After World War II, Kurt Vonnegut worked in the public relations department of General Electric Research Company. GE hired scientists and let them do pure research, and his job was to interview these scientists and find good stories about their research. Vonnegut felt that the older scientists were indifferent about the way their discoveries might be used. When science fiction author H.G. Wells visited the labs in the 30s, the Nobel Prize winning chemist Irving Langmuir suggested to him the idea of a story about a form of ice stable at room temperature. Wells never took it any further, but Vonnegut's older brother, Bernard, who was Langmuir's junior colleague at GE, remembered and told him about it. About both the author and the scientist had died, Vonnegut thought to himself, "Finders keepers, the idea is mine." Langmuir himself would become the model for Dr. Felix Honecker. Vonnegut said in an interview with The Nation that Langmuir was absolutely indifferent to the use that might be made of the truths he dug out of the rock and handed out to whoever was around. But any truth he found was beautiful in its own right. He didn't give a damn who got next to it. Dr. Felix Honecker's fictional invention of Ice Nine was similar in name only to the real substance Ice IX, uh, one of a number of variant structures for ice. Longmire had worked on seeding ice crystals to diminish or increase rain or storms. So Longmire was actually working on something good, but he came up with this particular seed of ice. So in the book, the idea is if you take Ice Nine and put it in contact with water, it turns all of that water into Ice Nine. Now, you can melt that water, you can melt that Ice Nine, you can boil it basically, and it becomes regular water again and freezes regularly. But if you dropped it in, say, an ocean, you could fuck a lot of things up. Do with that information what you will. Please read this book.
And followed up with Job: A Comedy of Justice.
Yeah, and then followed up with Job: Comedy of Justice because you oh God, that's funny.
Yeah, you're ready to do that now, aren't you?
I'm really, really great. I want to do it right now. It's been a few years since I've read either one of these.
Me too. The last time I read Cat Cradle would have been in the 90s.
Yeah, same.
Job: A Comedy of Justice would be the same. And Job: A Comedy of Justice is one of my very favorites. I
Yeah,
love that book.
it's very playful with religion as well as this book.
Yeah.
Um, oh my God, but one point Cat's Cradle used to be required reading
Yeah.
in English lit classes.
Well, that and Slaughterhouse-Five.
Yeah, yeah. Both great.
Yeah.
Again, I want to say novellas because they're less than a half inch.
They are. They're
And
novellas. They're small.
I don't know what the criteria is. I just know it by size. If it's that big, it's a novella. If it's that big, it's a novel. If it's that big, it's a big ass novel.
Well, hold and I can find out.
Oh yeah. I would actually like to know what the official designation is because I don't actually know. And I may not use it because I'm pretty comfortable with, yeah, that's a novella, that's a novel, and I'm holding my fingers out like our audio listeners can see.
Novella, typically 20,000 to 40,000 words, sometimes up to 50,000. Novels, generally 50,000 words or more. Most modern novels run 70 to 120,000, though some genres go much longer.
Mhm.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Hmm.
It's a word count. I'm still going to keep with
Oh,
the
okay.
half
Hold on.
inch, 2 inch, three inch.
Hold on a second. Interesting. Examples, novellas of Mice and Men, Steinbeck,
Uh-huh.
The Metamorphosis, Kafka, Kafka,
Mhm.
The Slow Regard of Silent Things, Rothfuss. Examples of novels. This is what came up. Cat Cradle, Vonnegut. It must be the word count. Dune,
It's got to
Frank
be.
Herbert, and The Great
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gatsby, Fitzgerald. Um,
See, I would think of
yeah,
the Great Gatsby is also a half-inch book.
yeah.
Yeah,
But it may be that Cat the Cradle is just longer than we think it is. I remember most of Vonnegut's books being very small and short,
yeah,
but
yeah. Me too.
I just thought it was interesting that it came up with examples, and Cat the Cradle was one of those.
Yes,
Interesting.
it's a small novel.
Yeah, yeah.
The last book in our in our series of four novels or novellas that you should get out there and read is A Canticle for Leibowitz. A Canticle for Leibowitz is a post-apocalyptic social science fiction novel by American writer Walter M. Miller Jr. It was first published in 1959. It is set in a Catholic monastery in the deserts of the southwestern United States after a nuclear war. The book spans thousands of years as civilization rebuilds itself. The monks of the Albertine Order of Leibowitz preserve the surviving remnants of a man's scientific knowledge until the world is again ready to use it. The novel is a fix-up of three short stories Miller published in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction that were inspired by the author's participation in the bombing of the monastery at the Battle of Monte Cassino in World War II. The book is considered one of the classics of science fiction and has never been out of print. It won the 1961 Hugo Award for Best Science Fiction Novel, and its themes of religion, recurrence, and church versus state have generated a significant body of scholarly research. A sequel, St. Leibowitz and the Wild Horsewoman, was published posthumously in 1997. By 1955, Walter Miller had published over 30 science fiction short stories in such magazines as Astounding Science Fiction, Amazing Stories, and Fantastic Adventures. Also, kids, I'm going to break for just a second. If you have never looked at any of these old science fiction magazines, Astounding Science Fiction, Amazing Stories, and Fantastic Adventures, a lot of these great, wonderful novels started out as short stories in these magazines. If you could find old copies of these or they're collected copies of these and other things, they're incredible. You should check them out.
A lot of older authors went this route through the magazines of various anthologies, such as Stephen King started. He
Yeah,
started submitting articles to various magazines.
yeah,
Um,
these literary magazines were
I
great.
think one of them he admitted to was Playboy, if
Oh
I
yeah,
recall correctly.
Playboy's still doing literary treatments too, which is
And
amazing.
well, and they did. They that was besides the nudity. That's one of the things that they were very well known for was showcasing literature
Hmm.
and interviews and things like that.
Yeah,
The women originally in Playboy, the women were just kind of an eye catcher for people to buy it. And we always heard the joke through the 80s and the 90s, but it was quite true. I read Playboy for the articles because you did.
yeah, you
There
did.
was some great articles in
Yeah,
there.
and great science fiction stories too.
Yeah,
And the nudity didn't hurt.
yeah. So, but yeah, a lot of writers have in the past did that as they submitted to these anthology magazines and various publications to showcase their work and get their name out there. It's not like today where you can post yourself all over social media
Yeah,
and
we
get
didn't
the
have
attention.
that back then.
We didn't have it. So
No. Uh, Significant themes of his stories included loss of scientific knowledge or socio-technological regression and its presumed antithesis, continued technological advance, its preservation through oral transmission, the guardianship of archives by priests, and the side of human behavior which can only be termed religious. Those theme elements combined with the growing subgenre of the post-disaster story and Miller's own experiences during World War II. Again, at the Battle of Monte Cassino, where um, the the monastery on top of Monte Cassino was the oldest monastery in Europe, but it was the only way they could get through. Uh, Rebuilt by U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It looks the same. Um, because they felt real bad about it because they tried really hard not to bomb it, but they had to get her. They were up there shooting down on them. It was the only way to get. Basically, they controlled that pass in Italy.
Hmm.
Um, but this all did set the stage for the short story that would become the opening section of A Canticle for Leibowitz. Uh, Miller served as a radio man and tail gunner in a bomber, which did uh, bomb a casino. It is the only novel that Miller published in his lifetime. For the fix-up, Miller did not just collate three short stories. He changed the title and the names of some of the characters, added new characters, changed the nature and prominence of the existing characters, and added Latin passages. These revised affected the religious and recurrence themes of the story. The Latin phrases in the novel relate to Roman Catholic Church practices, rituals, and official communications. Susan Olson writes Miller did not include the Latin phrase just to add dignity to the work, but to emphasize its religious themes, making it a constant with the tradition of Judeo Christian writing. Changing the name of the abbot in the first part from Father Juan to Abbot Arcos strengthened the cyclical occurrence motif since the name of the first abbot encountered, Arcos, begins with the first letter of the Latin alphabet, and the name of the last abbot, Zerkai, begins with the last letter. So he really thought about this when he was doing the fix-up. The initial encounter between Brother Francis and Abbot Arcos is in Fiat Homo, grew from two passages in the short story to 8 pages in the novel. Abbot Arcos is shown to possess doubts and uncertainty, unlike the dogmatism of Father Juan. Miller also uses the adaptation process to add a layer of complexity to the story. Walker Percy recognizes the dimension of the novel, which he compared to a cipher, a coded message, and a book in a strange language. So, what is this novel about? Um, this is sort of the backstory of the novel. After the 20th century civilization was destroyed by a global nuclear war known as the Flame Deluge, there was a violent backlash against the cultural of advanced knowledge and technology that had led to the development of nuclear weapons. During this backlash, called the simplification, anyone of learning and eventually anyone who could even read was likely to be killed by rampaging mobs who proudly took on the name of simpletons. Illiteracy became almost universal and books were destroyed en masse. Isaac Edward Leibowitz, a Jewish electrical engineer working for the United States military, survived the war and sought refuge from the mobs of the simplification in the sanctuary of a Cistercian monastery, all the while surreptitiously searching for his wife, for whom he had become separated in the war. Eventually, concluding that his wife was dead, he joined the monastery, took holy orders, becoming a priest, and dedicated his life to preserving knowledge by hiding books, smuggling them to safety, known as booklegging, memorizing and copying them. He approached the church for permission to found a new monastic order dedicated to this purpose. With permission granted, he founded his new order in the deserts of the American Southwest, where it became known as the Albertian Order of Leibowitz. So is it Albertine or Albertian? Either
I
way.
would say Albertian.
Albertian Order of
Yeah,
Leibowitz.
that's what
The
I would
order's
say.
abbey is located in a remote desert in New Mexico, possibly near the military base where Leibowitz worked before the war, on an old road that may have been a portion of the shortest route from the Great Salt Lake to Old El Paso. Leibowitz was eventually betrayed and martyred, later beatified by the Roman Catholic Church. He became a candidate for sainthood. 600 years after his death, the abbey still preserves the memorabilia, the collected writings and artifacts of 20th century civilization that survived the flame deluge and the simplification, in the hopes that they will help future generations reclaim forgotten science. The story is structured in three parts: Fiat Homo, Fiat Lux, and Fiat Voluntas Tua. The parts are separated by periods of 6 centuries each. So, one of the pieces of memorabilia is a laundry list. It's actually his laundry list, which I always found humorous. But you don't get the full story of Leibowitz in the book. The story is not about him. He's been dead for 600 years when the book picks up. You get this story in increments throughout the novel, so you kind of have to put it together yourself. Um, But he basically took religious orders, went into this religious monastery, in the hopes that he could save books, started his own monastery, and he got killed for his trouble because the simpletons were rampaging. The simpletons are no longer a political entity anymore at the beginning of the novel, but so much stuff has already been destroyed that they're keeping it safe in the monasteries, much in the same way that a lot of Christian and Roman errata was saved in Ireland and then brought over to England after basically the English invaded. Because they weren't English in Britain originally; they were Britons. Um, the English came later and massacred their way across the island. Although there is some discussion now that it was probably more gradual than we think it was. That basically they got inundated into the society, but because they looked down upon learnedness, a lot of that stuff got destroyed. In the same way that the Library of Alexandria got destroyed because of simple nut jobs. Um, but yeah, that's basically what this book is about. But again, it's a short piece. I read it again. It was one of those books in that list. It was like, oh my God, this is so good. It might dovetail nicely after Job: A Comedy of Justice, but it is way more liturgical, I guess. Is that a
Hmm.
word?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's way
Hmm.
more
Hmm.
liturgical um, than either Cat's Cradle or Job: A Comedy of Justice. But it's amazing. And basically, you're trying to piece together the story of Leibowitz, um, told 600 years after he died, and then 1,200 years after he died, and then 1,800 years after he died. But it's brilliant, and society basically, by the time you get to the last part of the book, society's starting to rebuild itself for reals. And it's a real question of, do we need to keep doing this because society's starting to rebuild itself again? Has our mission been complete? And they realize that no, no, it has not. There's still plenty of stuff out there that they need to collect and protect, if not just for discovering the old information, but protecting it for a future cataclysm which could occur. The ideas of foundation. The foundation series was preservation of knowledge when the empire fell. It's just a brilliant idea, you know. Um, but again, I'd recommend that to anybody as well. Um, have you ever read Canticle for Leibowitz?
It's been a long, long, long
Yeah,
time, but yes, yes.
yeah. I mean, it was one of those books that was highly recommended by everybody. But that's about it for four little-known new wave sci-fi novels or novellas. As was requested, let's talk about books. There you go.
Yeah,
There's four great books right there.
yeah. I, it's a really, really good list. I just really, really think you very severely missed one. Hmm, hang on. Trying to think. Hang on. There's one I know I'm trying to think of here.
Oh, that's a nice cup you got there. What does that say on the front of it?
Oh, prime numbers.
Yeah, we did
It's
a
a,
show on
it's a,
prime numbers.
had to throw it out there. Had to do it.
I actually thought you were like, there's one you missed. I'm like, oh, really? And then I
Yeah,
realized
yeah,
what you
there
were
is. Hang
doing.
on, hang on. It's right. It's somewhere. It's right there. No, this is a great list of books. I would highly recommend reading them. And then a couple of others that were mentioned along the way were Old Man's War, John Scalzi,
Yeah.
if that's how his name's pronounced, um, and
Job: A Comedy of
Job: A
Justice.
Comedy of Justice. And do yourself a favor. Do Cap Cradle, follow it up with Job: A Comedy of Justice, and I think you're going to see exactly what I was saying,
Yeah.
that it's two sides of the same question.
Yeah.
I love that I've given you that idea
It's
because
funny.
it is.
It's really, really funny.
It's hysterical when you think about how related those two are. Um, so So anyway, I appreciate that. Those are really great. I love highlighting some books. We talked about Ender's Game in here, which is of course a well-known
Yeah.
book series. A lot of people don't know the other books in the series, and there's a lot of them. There is a
Yeah.
lot of them. There are short stories. Um, those are really good. Um, Ready Player One. So many people have read it. It's
Yeah.
good science fiction, but it's good to highlight some of these that are older that people might not be as familiar with because they have some really, really cool themes in them. Um, and understand they were cranked out before the technological world we're in now. And some of them, you're going to see stuff that we have today because
Hmm.
they were able to kind of future predict a little bit. They saw
Yeah.
where things were going,
Yeah.
which is where Ziggy talked about that astrophysicists are typically very much nerds and read this kind of stuff. And the people who have developed this stuff over the years because they saw what we theorized was possible through old Flash Gordon, Dick Tracy, um, Star Trek, and everything like that, that they saw what could be possible, just that we didn't have the tech at the time. If you go back and you watch that series Eureka that we talked about for one of our wife swaps in season three, yes, I think it's season three, is when they go back in time to 1947 and then come back, and they come back with Dr. Charles Grant, who's
Hmm.
played by the great James Callis.
Hmm.
Um, and he is just fascinated with with the tech of our time. And so you think
Yeah.
about these sci-fi writers, they kind of future predicted really more. They just kind of saw the paths we were headed and were able to kind of interpret what was going to happen. But they're really cool. I very, very much recommend it. Great job. Great list. Although you did forget one. So,
Yes.
bygones. With that, we'll step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
This is kind of a short one, but I did get my information off CNN, NPR. You're welcome, Zig.
Thank you.
Wikipedia and Medium, and this is the story of Jason Dalton.
Jason Dalton.
And it's a short one, but it's wild. It's absolutely wild.
This is a crazy roller coaster ride.
Kind of a little bit. I mean, it's definitely crazy. That's for sure. That's for
A
sure.
seatbelt.
Um, you know, it, in today's world, everybody uses Uber. They either use it for, they're traveling and they take an Uber, you take Lyft. People use Uber Eats, things like that. But when you open your Uber app, you expect convenience and you expect safety. You're just trying to get from point A to point B. That's all you're trying to do. However, on one horrifying night in February 2016 in Kalamazoo, Michigan, one Uber driver didn't just shatter that sense of safety, he turned it into a nightmare. Jason Brian Dalton was just your average 45-year-old guy. He was a husband, he was a dad, he had no criminal record, there were no red flags. He worked as an insurance adjuster and had been driving for Uber for less than a month. And honestly, on the surface, everything seemed very normal. But in the span of just 7 hours, he went on a shooting spree that left six people dead, two seriously wounded, and an entire city frozen in fear, all while accepting fares like nothing was wrong. And so this is the chilling story of the Uber killer.
Good God.
Oh, yeah. So it was a Saturday, February 20th, 2016, and it started off like any other. Dalton ran errands in the morning. He took his kids to get haircuts. And at some point, he logged into the Uber driver app and began accepting rides around Kalamazoo. Um, by all accounts, his early passengers said they noticed nothing weird, that they thought maybe he was a little quiet, but there was nothing alarming. He was just another middle-aged guy in a Chevrolet Equinox trying to make a little extra cash. But as the day went on, something happened. Something shifted. Hours before the shootings, Jason Dalton went to three different gun stores with a friend. At one of them, he purchased a black jacket with pockets designed to conceal a handgun. The store owner did say that Dalton was in good spirits during the visit. And the friend who accompanied Dalton said that Dalton was a little more quiet than normal, but nothing unusual. Dalton was an occasional customer at the same store, but he never purchased a firearm there. Shortly after 4 p.m., Matt Mellon requested an Uber pickup to drive him over to a friend's house. He was picked up at 4:21 by Dalton, who again was driving a silver Chevrolet Equinox. During the drive, Dalton received a call, and after finishing, he allegedly started driving crazy. At one point, he entered an oncoming lane of traffic, drove through a median strip, ignored a stop sign, and sideswiped a Ford Taurus, all while ignoring Matt Mellon's pleas to stop. When Dalton came to stop at another light,
Oh man, I'll bet.
yeah, well, so Dalton finally came to stop at another stop sign, and Mellon jumped out and called 911. He
Yeah.
gave the dispatcher information about Dalton's Equinox, including its license plate number, and the dispatcher put a be on the lookout, a BOLO, notification on the vehicle. And there were multiple 911 calls by others following the incident that all took place, but all of them were ignored. I kind of put the fault on the police on this one.
Hmm.
At 4:34, Dalton returned home and called his wife 41 minutes later, asking for her keys to their Chevy HHR. They agreed to meet at his parents' residence, which was located approximately 10 miles away. However, on the way, Dalton accepted another pickup request at 5:15 from a woman who wanted him to pick up her boyfriend at a Richland Township apartment complex. So he stayed in the Equinox. So 5:42 is when the nightmare started. Dalton pulled into the driveway of Deanna Carruthers. She was outside with a group of children at that apartment complex. He asked if she was looking for someone, to which she said no. Then he pulled out a gun and started shooting right there in broad daylight. Deanna was shot multiple times, but miraculously survived. She actually used her body to shield the children and was hailed as a hero later, and she survived by playing dead. After the attack, Dalton just drove off. And here's the most chilling part. He went right back online and started accepting Uber pickups. Within 30 minutes, he was picking up passengers like nothing had happened. And this is where the story gets surreal from here.
Whoa, 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 whoa. The story can't get surreal from here. It is already surreal, but please continue.
Oh, I know, but here we go.
Okay.
So after trying to kill Tiana, Dalton accepted fares through Uber and picked up unsuspecting riders. Multiple passengers later said he seemed normal, a little fast behind the wheel, but not dangerous. One group of young people even joked with him in the car and got dropped off safely. They gave him a 5-star rating, all while he had the gun under his seat. Later on, Dalton allegedly met his wife and children at his parents' home in the Comstock Township. He explained to his wife that the Equinox had been sideswiped by a disgruntled taxi driver and a Chevrolet Impala who fired a gunshot at him due to rage at having his business taken away by Uber. He then assured her that he called Uber and they were handling the incident. And he also provided his wife with a 9mm Taurus handgun, telling her it was not safe to be at the house without it. In addition, he instructed her to not go to work and not take their children to school. As he left, he allegedly told his wife that he could not tell her where he was going, but that it would be on the news. Why did this not raise red flags?
Dude.
So,
Okay.
so
I need to pause for a second.
sure,
So he's perfectly fine in the morning. He
mhm,
receives a phone call and he starts going crazy. Do we know what that phone call was?
we do.
Okay.
We do. I'm
It-
getting
it-
there.
okay, okay. I'm sorry. I hated to stop you. I
No,
needed
no,
I
you're
needed to
fine.
point that out inside my brain.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Yes,
Okay.
we're getting there.
Tells the wife, I'm gonna
Yes.
be on the news.
Well, that it would be on the news, whatever
Yeah.
it was at the time. After he left, he withdrew money from an ATM at 6:44. He
Mhm.
drove around for 35 minutes and he allegedly returned to his house and switched handgun. He left again at 7:37 and continued accepting Uber requests, which he carried out without incident. None of the passengers he took noticed anything unusual or alarming about him. And later that night at 8:26, Dalton called his wife and told her not to call her parents. At 10 o'clock p.m., just a few hours after the first attack, his rampage escalated. He pulled into a Kia dealership in Kalamazoo. There he saw a father and son, Richard Smith, who was 59, and Tyler Smith, who was 17, browsing cars. They were just spending time together on a Saturday night, and without a word, Dalton got out of his car and opened fire, shot both of them multiple times. They had no connection to him. This was completely random, and again, he drove off.
Did the first lady have any connection to him?
No,
Okay.
none of these people have any connection to him.
What the fuck?
Told you it was a wild one.
Yeah.
About 15 minutes later at 10:24 p.m., Dalton pulled into a Cracker Barrel restaurant parking lot. He spotted a group of women who were friends and family standing near their cars after dinner, and he opened fire. He shot and killed four women: Mary Jo Nye, 60, Barbara Hawthorne, 68, Dorothy Brown, 74, and Mary Lou Nye, 62. There was a
You just
14
pulled
year
into a Cracker Barrel and shot four old ladies?
Mhm.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
And then there was a 14-year-old girl named Abigail Koff who was also shot in the head and presumed dead at the scene. She actually got taken to the morgue until a police officer saw her move.
Oh,
So, yeah, so she survived. She underwent multiple surgeries and she had to relearn how to walk and talk, but she kind of became a living miracle of this story. It was at this point that Dalton was alleged to have returned home and reloaded his gun. So by midnight, police were in full alert mode. Witnesses had given description of the shooter's vehicle, a dark Chevrolet Equinox. Police started a manhunt, and as they did this, Dalton reportedly continued to accept Uber fares. At 12:04 a.m., he picked up three people and dropped them off at a dormitory on the WMU campus. These passengers recalled that the driver wasn't overly friendly, but did nothing to alarm them. Later at 12:12, Dalton picked up four people and drove them to her hotel. During that ride, one passenger who had been hearing reports of the shooting spree jokingly asked Dalton, "Are you the shooter?" And Dalton simply replied, "Nope." A few minutes later, he picked up another three people, and just like the previous ride, a passenger asked if he was the shooter, which he vehemently denied. Dalton's name did come up to police, and when police officers spotted the SUV on the road, they pulled him over, and he didn't resist. Inside the vehicle, they found a Glock handgun and a bulletproof vest. He confessed almost immediately. But what he said next is what people were not ready for. You asked about that phone call.
yes.
Dalton
Perfectly
told
okay until that phone call.
Dalton told detectives that the Uber app had taken over his mind. He said it was like a devil figure. He said that when he pressed the app's logo, it would turn red, and that meant it was giving him instructions, almost like it possessed him. And he described it like he was being in a video game. He said he wasn't acting like himself, and he felt like he was being controlled. So police asked if he had taken drugs. He hadn't. He passed all toxicology tests. Psychologists evaluated him, and even though he was making all these bizarre claims, he was declared mentally competent to stand trial.
Okay.
Um, he initially pleaded not guilty, but in January 2019, just before they did the jury selection, he changed his plea to guilty on all counts: six counts of murder, two counts of attempted murder, and eight firearms violations. He was going against his lawyer's counsel, and he surprised judge and prosecutors by admitting, "Yes, I was behind the attack." And he told the judge, "I've wanted to do this for quite a while." He said he didn't want to put the victims' families through any more pain. Prosecutor Jeffrey Gettings said at the time, quote, "These were very deliberate killings. This wasn't hurried in any way, shape, or form. They were intentional, deliberate, and I don't want to say casually done. Coldly done is what I want to say." So it's almost like he thought at first he was going to go for the insanity defense, trying for the you know what was behind the actual phone call. No, we don't know. It's just he was saying the app.
But there's a witness but before he started driving crazy, witnessed him taking the phone call.
Right. We don't
But
have any
we don't
information
know
on
who
that
he
one.
talked to
Hmm.
or what it was. And he
Yeah.
claimed
He
originally that it was the Uber app that
right.
turned it into a
Right.
devil.
Like I said, he told the judge he'd been wanting to do this for a while. Something in his head
Mhm.
said, I want to do a mass killing spree." So, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Michigan doesn't have the death penalty. The courtroom was packed with grieving families. Some cried, some stared him down, and others just wanted to know why. But Jason Dalton has never given a real answer, just those stories about the apps and voices. He's currently incarcerated in Michigan, serving 6 life sentences. He has no chance of release. Um, the shootings put a heightened focus on Uber and its protocol for approving drivers who are considered independent contractors and not employees. There was a CNN investigation last year that found that ride-sharing companies Uber and Lyft have approved thousands of people who should have been disqualified because of criminal records, and this was according to state agencies and lawsuits. Uber did issue a statement saying they were horrified by what happened, and they've since added more safety protocols, including emergency buttons, background checks, and in-app monitoring.
Yeah, but this safety protocol wouldn't have affected this dude.
I don't think so. And that's and well,
Because
and
this come
that's
out of nowhere.
absolutely. And for a lot of people, especially in Kalamazoo, the idea that a rideshare driver could just flip and start killing strangers at random, I mean, that's left permanent scars there.
Oh,
Uh,
fuck yeah.
what makes Jason's Dalton's case so terrifying isn't just the violence, it's randomness, because you brought that up. There was no motive, no personal vendetta. This was just pure senseless murder in between rides.
Uh-huh.
In 1 minute he's taking someone to a bar, the next he's shooting a father and son at a car dealership. It's bizarre and chilling modern killing sprees in American true crime history. It really is,
Wow.
it shattered the illusion that apps and convenience equals safety. It doesn't.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I know that was short, but that's the story of Jason Dalton. I just found it
Wow. That was fucking
wild.
bizarre. Thank
I
you,
know,
sir.
really, really bizarre. This one came up in an email to me the other day, and I was like, oh wow,
Yeah, we
uh,
got to do this.
yeah, I
We
had to
got to
do
talk
this one.
about this.
Because it's just freaky. And like I said, the fact that 1 minute he's just fine and driving people around, the next minute and that's where I say it's not the Uber app, because he didn't get the fee, get the fare, pick up people and start killing those people. He went other places, to
Hmm.
places where people had not requested fares,
Uh-huh.
and killed
Well,
them in
he was
between
in
fares.
the parking lot of that apartment complex,
True, true. The
but
the the
was
Richland, yeah.
nobody requesting a fare.
Exactly, exactly. So that's what's just really, really weird. I figured this one would bake your noodle because it certainly
Yeah.
baked mine. So
Yeah, yeah. Like, what the fuck?
yeah,
I'd still love to know who he fucking talked to
right. Yeah, I'd
because
kind
it's
of
almost like a switch got flipped.
right, right. I I read I didn't put it in here, but I did read some articles that talked about he'd been having some kind of temper fit at work. Because I said he was an insurance adjuster
Yeah.
at the beginning. Um, there were some reports that he had been having some problems at work and getting very temperamental and angry at work. So I don't know that that call flipped a switch, unless maybe it was a call from someone at work that pissed him off and it just snap,
Yeah.
snap. I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, that's my story for this week.
Well, thank you,
Um,
sir.
you're very welcome. Um, that will take us to the end of another recording week. You can find more about us on nerderymurder.com. That's our hub for everything we talk about. It's got pictures and links, as well as the link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
Yeah, check this one out. I've actually got a review for each one of these novels, where they basically kind of do a bit of a deep dive on each one of them. Where they, just talk about the well, one of them is called the Quickie, but they basically talk about these books in a more in-depth way.
Well, and if you're not already, please subscribe on that YouTube page. Give that little bell ring there and
Yep.
subscribe. That way you get updates when we have stuff out there.
Yeah.
Zig does a lot of work on these, and I really appreciate each and everything he does for that.
Well, thanks, sir.
Thank you. You can also find the link to our merchandise page, where if you wish to show off your nerdery murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something from that. You'll also find the link to our Patreon, where if you wish to become a patron and help us with the costs that are associated with that show, our patrons and our merchandise go to keeping us on the air for our storage, for our uploads, everything that goes into the costs that are associated. It's not cheap. It's not quick and cheap. It takes a lot of work, and we appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. One thing you can do though that's completely free is leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find our content that may be looking for the information that we talk about here. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Chuck, you can go to sleep now.
Good night, Chuck.
Good night, Chuck. With that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.